This might be the wildest twist of the entire Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua storyline, because for the first time ever, Oleksandr Usyk has spoken publicly after training Anthony Joshua inside his own camp. The same man he beat twice, the same man whose style he broke down, exposed, and neutralized, and now he's helping AJ sharpen up for Jake Paul. And what Usyk said completely rewrites this fight. We're talking honest, raw, unfiltered insights into AJ's condition, weaknesses, improvements, mindset, and exactly what Jake Paul is stepping into on December 19th. If you think you know how this fight ends, after today's video, you might change your mind. Let's get into it. This entire story started quietly. Joshua disappears into camp. Rumors leak. Whispers start floating around about Usyk flying in. Nobody believes it. Then AJ confirms it. He's literally training with the man who beat him twice. Not as an opponent, not as a rival, but as a coach, mentor, and strategic partner. And the craziest part? Usyk accepted. Joshua walked into the one environment that exposed him more than any other and asked to be rebuilt by the same team who cracked his style. Most fighters would never admit they need help from the guy who dominated them. AJ didn't care about pride. He cared about improvement. And that's where Usyk's first words become so important. Usyk kept it simple, direct, almost cold. When he was asked about AJ's development inside camp, he said, "The first session, not good. The second session, a bit better, but still not enough." That is classic Usyk. No hype, no sugarcoating, no fake compliments. But the part that really revealed everything, it showed him there is another level he must reach. That line right there, that's the entire story. He's not just training AJ, he's pulling him into deeper waters, technically, mentally, strategically, where Usyk lives. And Joshua is now learning how far away he still is from the level he needs to be, which is exactly why this camp is terrifying for Jake Paul. This is where people get it twisted. Usyk isn't in camp to spar Joshua into oblivion. He's there to rebuild his foundation. Inside camp, insiders say Usyk drilled Joshua on narrow stance adjustments, southpaw foot traps, feint reading and reaction timing, pressure control, defensive pivots, exit angles, mid-range management, breathing patterns under pressure. These are not things AJ ever specialized in. This is elite boxing IQ, stuff Jake Paul has never even been around, never mind prepared for. And Usyk teaching this to AJ is like handing him the cheat codes to avoid all the mistakes he made in the past. This is the part of the story almost nobody understands. Joshua didn't go to Usyk to learn how to beat Jake Paul. He went to Usyk to fix himself, to rebuild his instincts, to rediscover composure, to sharpen reactions and remove hesitation. The biggest problem with AJ over the years has been indecision. Against Usyk, it cost him 2 fights. Against Andy Ruiz, it cost him the belts the first time. Against a confident, explosive fighter like Jake Paul, it could cost him another upset. Usyk's mindset training alone is worth millions. It strips fear, it strips ego, it strips clutter. AJ said it himself inside camp. "It showed me another level I have to reach." This is a man rebuilding himself in real time. Alright, this is where the fight actually becomes interesting. Jake Paul is not Usyk. He's not even close. But that's not the point. Jake's entire style is built on forward pressure, explosive right hands, timing counters, set plays, predictable patterns. Usyk destroys predictable patterns. He breaks rhythm. He resets fighters mentally. He disrupts timing, foot pressure, and game plans until fighters don't even recognize the openings they used to rely on. Now imagine AJ learning that defensive blueprint against a fighter who is far less complicated than Usyk. Jake Paul thrives when he knows where you're going to be, but Usyk just spent weeks teaching AJ how to not be there. This is the worst case scenario for Jake. People inside the gym said Joshua surprised everyone. They expected him to look hesitant, or intimidated by Usyk's presence, or overwhelmed by the drills. Instead, they said he looked hungry, focused, like he'd been waiting for this switch for years. One insider said, "He's like a student who finally found the right teacher." AJ has always had the physical gifts, the height, the power, the speed, the explosiveness. What he lacked was a style that matched his mindset. Usyk's camp gave him structure, patterns, clarity, and for the first time in a long time, AJ looks like a fighter who knows what he wants to do instead of trying to figure it out mid-fight. Usyk's #1 lesson? Size doesn't matter if your mind isn't trained. He explained it. If size mattered, the king of animals would be the elephant. But it's not. The king is the lion, the one with instincts, intelligence, strategy. Joshua took that to heart because one of AJ's biggest downfalls has been relying too heavily on physical advantages. Against Jake Paul, a smaller fighter, it's easy to fall back into that trap. But Usyk is training him to win with technique, timing, intelligence, not just raw power. That's why this camp changes the entire narrative. Jake Paul already had a nightmare on his hands. He's fighting a heavyweight, a two-time world champion, a puncher with legitimate KO power. But now, he's fighting a heavyweight trained by one of the smartest technical fighters alive. Jake Paul does not do well with angle changes, feints, southpaw traps, layered defense, unpredictable rhythm. That's Usyk's entire identity, and Joshua is absorbing it daily. Jake can't prepare for this. He's sparring guys trying to replicate AJ's size. He's not sparring guys trying to replicate AJ's new style. That's the difference. Adam Smith, one of the most respected voices in British boxing, said something that hit the nail on the head. He said AJ didn't just need training, he needed one-on-one tuition. He needed to sit with someone who understands the small details: timing, balance, distance, exposure, forcing reactions. That's what Usyk gave him. It wasn't a camp, it was a masterclass. Jake Paul has never experienced that type of detail-focused training, and he's walking into the ring with a man who just got it from a master. Eddie Hearn said one thing that spelled it out perfectly. This is for AJ's mind, not for the cameras, not for the hype, not for public perception, for AJ's confidence. Because a confident Joshua is a dangerous Joshua. A version of AJ who trusts his instincts is a version Jake Paul simply cannot beat. Hearn knows that. Usyk knows that. Jake's team definitely knows that. This isn't just preparation, this is mental reconstruction. You're going to hear a lot of rumors online about AJ and Usyk sparring full force. Most of them aren't true. But what is true is that Usyk tested him. He pushed him into uncomfortable positions. He forced him to make defensive decisions he struggled with for years. He baited his reactions. He broke patterns. These moments changed AJ as a fighter. They made him more aware, more reactive, more efficient. And that's exactly what hurts Jake Paul. Jake relies heavily on the big moment, the big shot, the single mistake. But AJ is being trained to avoid those mistakes entirely. People think Usyk helped AJ to be nice. Wrong. He helped AJ because he respects him. Joshua gave him 2 fights that elevated his legacy. Fought him clean, fought him respectfully, never ducked him, never made excuses. Usyk sees AJ as a real fighter, not just a big guy with belts. Helping him is an honor, not a burden. And Usyk loves chaos in the heavyweight division. If Joshua beats Jake Paul in spectacular fashion, business gets bigger for everyone. This might surprise you. Jake Paul can win 2 ways: by forcing AJ into early exchanges, by overwhelming him with activity. But the problem? Usyk just trained AJ to avoid both. Jake's only chance is to jab the body, push AJ backwards, tie him up, slow his rhythm, make it messy, force hesitation. If he doesn't, the fight is over by round 3. Because Usyk didn't just sharpen AJ, he simplified him. Less thinking, more reacting, less hesitation, more conviction. Jake Paul is stepping into a puzzle he's not qualified to solve. Here's a perspective almost nobody talks about. Usyk didn't just train Joshua, he studied him again. The same way he studied him before the rematch. The same way he broke down every rhythm, habit, and instinct AJ showed in 24 rounds together. And insiders say Usyk was pleasantly surprised. Not by AJ's power, not by his physique, but by his discipline. Usyk reportedly told people around camp, "He listens quickly now." This is huge. A fighter can have all the strength and muscles in the world, but if they're slow to adapt, slow to react, or stubborn with instructions, they plateau. Usyk saw something different this time. A Joshua who wasn't trying to win rounds. He wasn't trying to prove himself to Usyk. He wasn't trying to force a style. He was trying to learn. Usyk views that as the most dangerous version of AJ, because when a big, athletic, explosive fighter becomes coachable, he becomes unpredictable. This is why Usyk agreed to train him. It wasn't charity, it wasn't sentiment, it wasn't strategy for his own future, it was respect. Respect for a fighter hungry enough to rebuild from the ground up. Respect for a man who came back to the person who beat him, twice, not to complain, but to learn. Usyk believes Joshua can improve in ways he didn't show in their fights. And if that's true, Jake Paul is walking into the most educated version of AJ we've seen. A version with technique to match his power, patience to match his aggression, discipline to match his size, and guidance from one of the most intelligent fighters on earth. This segment ties the entire story together. Usyk didn't change AJ. He unlocked the version of AJ that always existed, the one even he didn't fully understand until now. After hearing Usyk's first words, after analyzing each camp detail, after breaking down what AJ has learned, this is the most accurate picture. Jake Paul is fighting a version of Anthony Joshua who is mentally rebuilt, technically improved, strategically refined, physically sharp, guided by elite-level IQ, hungry for redemption, fueled by criticism, prepared with a system designed by Oleksandr Usyk. That is not the version of Anthony Joshua Jake Paul thought he was signing up for. And on December 19th, he's going to feel that difference immediately. Who wins this fight? Does Jake Paul shock the world? Or does the Usyk-trained version of AJ put on the most dominant performance of his career? Drop your prediction below. Hit subscribe if you want more inside camp breakdowns, fighter reactions, and all the chaos leading up to December 19th. See you in the next one.